we should be expecting 2024 to be a good year of trading.
Like, the problem is people might take 3 trades a year. You can't learn anything on 3 trades.
There's one thing you learn in crypto and this community is that you shouldn't blindly trust anyone.
Yeah. All right. Another episode of the Burrow. Welcome. We're once again joined by Mr. Talbot.
Hello.
And guest this week is the one and only Pierre, who you've done a few other podcasts recently. I think you did one with Doc, right?
Yeah, actually, it was the first time in like a couple of years. I think that I actually did some podcasts with friends. Last time, I think it was during the 2021-2022 era. But yeah, I spent some time discussing with Delta and Doc recently.
Nice. Does that mean the bull run's coming back? Like you start doing podcasts and everything's up only?
No, it means that I've did well enough during the past few weeks to have some time to discuss markets during afternoons.
Yeah, you've had some good trading recently.
Yeah, it's been nice. I mean, it's been some good shitcoinery months. In general, when markets behaving that way, and we have like a few shitcoins leading, like we've had with Sol, ING, and things like this. It's kind of like the best timing for my system to play out.
What's your macro views at the moment? Do you have any opinions there?
To be honest, I tried for the past few months, 3 months, to not have too much of a bias regarding macro in general, because I really went as left as possible in the mid curve, in the curve, IQ curve, basically. And it felt at some point that it could hold me back a little bit too much, being too focused on the macro. I'm a bit happy I didn't focus too much on it. I don't have a strong opinion on macros in general. The only thing I know and I'm excited for is that we should be expecting 2024 to be a good year of trading. I think plenty of us are expecting plenty of things, even outside of crypto with US elections and things like this. I'm trying to remain as unbiased as possible as usual, especially when the correlation between crypto and stonks is not too high. But I'm very excited for 2024.
Yeah, worst case, we'll at least have some volatility, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Who in your ideal world would win
the election?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm very happy I'm not the one voting on this one. I don't know. It kind of feels like pretty much every elections we've had over the past decade or something, that anyone who wins gonna be somehow shitty anyway.
Yeah.
But because, I mean, if it's not a question of political bias, I don't give two fucks about it. But I would say that Trump was very funny to follow when he was president, in terms of how he was playing with the market, basically. I mean, it was COVID era, so maybe it was exaggerated. But for the entertainment and for the idiocracy thesis that I've been having, it would be funny to see the old guy back in the office.
Yeah, it's like that. I don't know if you guys have seen that like classic South Park episode, but every election is basically a choice between like a giant douche or a turd sandwich. Like it applies to everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually a big Trump fan. As far as policy goes, I think he's the best president we've had in 30 years, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but in terms of entertainment, that's definitely the funniest one. Because right now we're making fun of Biden more than he makes us laugh. While Trump was very, very entertaining. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, you probably remember, but during the peak COVID era, the coffee kind of tweets and things like this,
classic.
Like everyone had Trump on notifications on Twitter, and we were like all watching SPX.
It's such a good time, honestly.
If only he was tweeting about shitcoins, that'd have been great.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that it was during the peak FTX era, so the SPX correlation was at the highs. So it was pretty much, oh, you trade Bitcoin? Well, I'm sorry, mate, but you're gonna have to listen to the orange guy.
That's where the real alpha was.
It was pretty funny, to be honest.
He's arguably got the best foreign policy, though, out of anyone.
Yeah. Well, the least, at the very least, how do you say that in English? It was probably the least spreading way. I mean, foreign policy, like more, okay, do your own shit, mate, more than overly overly present, more democratic ways. It's pretty much always been the case in US. It seems, at least, that the Dems love the war more than the reps.
It's actually kind of sad and ironic, like that Trump's probably the best option as far as de-escalation as to what's going on in the Middle East right now, which is kind of
which tells you everything you need to know about where we stand in the idiocracy. Like we are in peak idiocracy, and it's a good thing in terms of financial opportunities, because, well, I guess if things are stupid, you just have to follow the stupid things. But yeah, as you just said, Jim, like knowing that one of our best chances to see some de-escalation in plenty fronts, not just even Middle East, is Trump being elected. I mean, what the heck?
The former Apprentice host.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not, every time I speak about my idiocracy thesis in markets, everyone is like, maybe you're making too much of it. And I'm like, when you say a sentence like we just said, this should, I mean, isn't it clear that the market, we live in a simulation some ways? It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
So as far as current market conditions, what was your trigger to sort of flip and start riding trend?
Outside of just technicals and outside of just following the system's basics, like you've seen it a few times, Gene, when we were streaming together, but basically just H4 daily trends following. I think one of the trigger we've had was the post-Cointelegraph market reaction. Mm-hmm. The fact that we indeed printed a nonsense week, but then instantly started to show some strength and flip some trends instead of fully retracing, while for the past few weeks, every moves we've had were all retraced. So it was a combination of that and the precedent BTC moves through the year. Every moves we've had this year on Bitcoin were H4 trend based and all the time defended strongly up until the trend finally broke, and then followed by some weeks of consolidation. And the fact that post-Telegraph news, we got a retest of the H4 trend area, but also the key of the 27, 28 that I think everyone was watching basically. And the fact that it just not fully retraced, it kind of clicked in my head like, okay, it's probably time to put the foot on the acceleration basically.
Mm-hmm. So one thing we really want to talk about today is like, those periods of, non-volatility where it's very hard to sort of get any meaningful setups. What's your process for sort of maintaining your mental fortitude and not over trading,
I see. Well, it's always a combination again of technicals, because basically if the system is good to highlight trends, it should be as good to highlight the lack of it. But that's always easier said than done. Personally, the only thing that makes me sit on my hands with discipline is public journaling, whether it's on Twitter or on the Haven. The fact that you put out every day clear thoughts, clear levels you want to see to hold, or clear conditions you want to see to get back into action. It helps, at least it helps me to remain disciplined. It can be a little bit messy sometimes, and I think people can see it on Twitter and even more on the Haven. In days where you have to be disciplined and sit on your hands, sometimes I'm going to make the same update 2 times in the day or 3 times in the day and repeat, this should be defended, this should be reclaimed a few times.
So like the publicity like gives you some sense of accountability, right?
Yeah, I think it's accountability, but also trying to write down the most simplest way of seeing things, and so that I'm reducing the chances for me to fuck things up, because I know that the simplest the approach and things that I need to see to remain in a position or to exit, the easier for me to execute. I think it was something I was discussing with Delta the other week, that if it's important for you to know what kind of trader you are and to accept that you're not some sort of a talented, gifted market readers or whatever, and accept that, and then stick to some journaling and discipline to fight these kind of moments, as Jim said.
If you were to give someone one or 2 tips, because like obviously like with you, like the fact your system well, your win rate, the conditions you're good at, it obviously allows you the freedom to sit back and have the confidence that the conditions will come to you. What sort of 1 or 2 pieces of advice would you give to people that generally get chopped up in those poor periods and they sort of lack that confidence to sort of wait, etc.?
I think I think I need to think a little bit about it, but I think the most obvious advice again would be journaling. Again, I think it's fairly obvious for everyone, and especially for those who are doing it on a daily basis. But I do believe that having a place where you basically have a map and a journal and a set of data of every trade you took helps identifying market conditions in general. And usually you can go back to some journal entries and like, okay, I'm starting to see some similarities between now and what happened then. Like, for example, right now on crypto, we can see that it's been a Bitcoin-led rally, but for the past few days, we've started seeing some ETH BTC strength and some nonsense plays like FTT and Luna. If you go back in your journal from the past few moves in Bitcoin or even in recent cycles, usually it's a good signal for you to back off. That can be an example of how journaling can help you in those kind of moments. But outside of that, I'm trying to think about another quick tip. But yeah, I think it all lays down into journaling and trying to have the simplest way possible approach in the market and stick to simple rules. So yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's fairly obvious advices. Like, I don't have like a special tip to say, but if you focus on doing that well in the first place, like before trying to go into dead-gen plays or before trying to be front running left and right, if you try to have a simple system, journal it well, execute well, stick to that, probably is a few good things to be working on. I think actually it was you, Jim, who once told me, we were in stream together, and you told me something like, the problem with trading and for beginning traders is that they try to run before learning to walk. I think it's you who said that to me someday, and it kept in my head because I think it's so much true, and you can see it so often when you discuss with people starting to trade. So yeah, just try to keep things simple, journal everything, and be good at the simple things first before trying to be the next Loma.
I think, like when it comes to all of this, I think a lot of people's issue with it and why they don't maintain their discipline is it's fucking boring.
Yeah, 100%.
It's really boring. And to do everything really, like the periods of time when I'm trading well, it's like the most boring thing. But that boredom, like the actual outcome of that boredom is the thing that kind of motivates and stimulates you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You can kind of push aside that. Like getting rewarded for that level of discipline is kind of nice, and you can kind of get over that boredom. But I think people jump into this, and people are like trying to be stimulated all the time, like
in a trade constantly, like
yeah. Like, wake up, okay, what can I trade today, instead of having some plans and letting things come to you. I mean, it's fine to every day be chasing things, of course, and especially in conditions like we've had today. But yeah, it's being able to understand that it should be boring most of the time. There's also something that I've been discussing a lot recently, is that lowering your expectations in a way to understand that conditions we are seeing now and conditions like full blown off bull markets probably represent 5% of your time in the market. 99% of the rest of the time is going to be either chop vests, either more uncertain times, more unclear trades and trends. So you need to lower your expectations so that it doesn't stay in mind that it should always be like this 5% of the time. And you should be good in both moments. And I think the past 2 years and pretty much since the beginning of this bear market have been very good lessons on that in the market for the past 2 years. Because again, as you saw this year, we've had like windows of volatility from Bitcoin doing some big moves on H4 and daily, followed by long period of chop vest, unclear trends. Lower your expectation and being able to understand that this is not the norm. Like, things doing ×2 in a day is not the norm in the market, and it's never going to be. Just like train your brain to not forget that, basically.
With that in mind, do you like, because I see obviously a lot of the sentiment right now is that this is the start of some big bull run. Like, whether it is or not, does your mentality ever change with regards to how you approach the market? Like, do you have any elevated or different expectations now compared to the previous sort of period of volatility we had?
Nah, I try not to. At least I try to approach every kind of rallies like we've had for the past few weeks the same way and to stick to the same things. Again, mostly because I know that if/when I deviate from these kind of things, it's usually I usually consider that as another signal that things might have been eating a little bit too much. When I actually deviate from usual activity, like for example, end of 2021 when we were all aping 10 different chains, that's not usually what I do, but it stayed in my journal as, okay, mate, the day you're probably looking for exposure on 10 different chains, probably time to check up on your risk, basically. But no, I really try to approach things the same way. I try to focus on the same things. I think that someday, if we are actually at the beginning of a big bull run or whatever, absolutely zero idea about that. Maybe it might come back to bite me a little bit because I'm probably going to have taken profits too aggressively or whatever. But again, if that's the case, I hope I'm just going to treat it as a dynamic change and adapt. But as of today, I see no reason to adjust the way I've been trading for the past 2 years. It's been doing fairly nicely. Just have to keep going.
I'd be quite interested to maybe dive a bit more into the public side of your journaling, because how long is that something you've been doing, like sharing each of these trades publicly?
I guess it's something I've always done. Like on Twitter for the past 7 years, I think I've been sharing IDs every day, basically. A bit differently than I used to do a few years ago, because now on Twitter I try to mainly stick to BTC, ETH, and a few alts while leading the market. Like recently, I've mostly been focused on sharing BTC and Sol and ING updates, for example. But in a much more disciplined way, basically since the Aven inception in 2020, and with a much bigger and a much stricter focus since 2021 when I started doing this full time. I've started to have a much more organized approach in the way I share my trades. On Discord, for example, I have a new dedicated thread for every trade I took from the moment I start watching a coin to entering, to exit, etc. So I would say it's been in a more serious approach, I would say it's 3-4 years or something like this. And it's 100% something that has made me, if that hasn't made me more gains, like if it's not something that has made me take better trends and trades, at least I think it avoided me taking 1,000 bad trades, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was about to say, I don't know if it's helping to write the trends whenever I'm in, but the amount of trades I've avoided just by writing down something and halfway through being like, I'm forcing something right now. Like I probably don't have to take this thing because I'm writing down the thread and it's not striking as obvious as I'm writing it. Probably means I'm out of my lane basically right now and forcing something that I shouldn't be taking.
Yeah, because I think like it'd be really interesting to know, like, what was your reasoning behind initially doing it publicly? Like maybe before you even had a following or people looking.
I think if we are completely obvious and completely honest, there is a part of the stamina and dopamine behind sharing stuff on social networks whenever it plays out.
Yeah.
And when you
retweet those ones.
Yeah, and when you first start doing, well, I guess the first thing that made me do it is because crypto Twitter, whether you like it or not, is quite the place, to be honest. And I mean, it's separated niche within the community. You have the extremely dumb, the extremely smart. Sometimes both niches tend to interact somehow. But it's a. I mean, I've never attended a single financial class, economic class, whatever. I learned everything off of internet basically, and CT, especially a few years ago, was a tremendous help in that part. So I guess just like, sharing to learn, sharing for cloud, sharing for dopamine. Again, if I have to be fully honest, it's and I guess anyone telling you otherwise probably lying.
Yeah, I like the self-awareness, but yeah, because I was wondering if it was like potentially something you'd even recommend, like, because I'm sure there's.
I do. Oh yeah, if you're not too shy, if you're someone that don't give a fuck much about what other people think and say, if you can share things publicly, even if people do not necessarily interact with you and give you feedbacks at first, at the very least, I don't know. It's easier to be engaging on what you think the market's gonna do on everyone else's posts when you self-share things. But you don't have to, of course. But I personally, at least, it's been a very good help for me through the years.
Jim, is this something that you've ever found? Like, because I know you've had phases of being more, public in your thought processes and your journaling. Like, how did you find it versus being a bit more private?
It depends on my conviction level, really. It almost becomes quite egoic and sort of arrogant at times when I'm really confident in my sort of thesis. I'm more inclined to share because it's part of the game for me. It's like, especially when I'm sort of in a contrarian mindset and I'm correct. It's just part of the. I quite enjoy that game of like almost taunting and teasing. It's like shit. It's like chatting shit like on a Call of Duty game or something.
Yeah, it's like chatting shit and having
exactly.
the goods to back it as well. So
yeah, exactly. Like it's like it feels great. But overall, like the way Pierre does it is just crazy to me because in those period like non-conviction periods, like I care too much. I think what people think. So it adds a level of like sort of unconscious
Pressure. Kind of
pressure.
yeah.
While for me it's more again, for me, when I share things like this, it's also a way for me to check on myself. Like I'm sharing this update saying, for example, if Bitcoin loses this level, you should be taking some profits off and consider this as weakness. It's a way for my brain to be
100% sure.
If that happens, stick to it. Fucking hell.
Yeah. I like that. I'm curious, does that ever slow down your execution? If you're like having to really put down a thought process behind everything, make sure it makes sense, all these sort of things.
Well, it probably does, but also I'm rarely trading below H4 trends and H4 charts. Like there are some periods where I'm going to be charting and trading in lower time frames, but usually it means that we are in conditions where I'm not in my best conditions, because it most likely mean we are choppy more than anything. So it's usually when I share less content. But no, to be honest, for someone who like me who trades mostly H4 and daily charts, that doesn't it's not. And after a few years, to be honest, I can pretty much work on a full market analysis in 1 hour, 2 hours, and by noon it's done, and then I have the rest of the day basically. And it's not like we are shitcoin traders and crypto traders. If there is something we don't miss, it's time.
For sure.
We are not going to pretend we are busy people. Outside of trading, of course, but we are crypto traders. It's not like if we were actually running a company or something.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious because, it's all good and well, with the clout of like when you share a good trade, but has there been moments where you just faced like backlash for a call that maybe just was completely wrong? Or
surprisingly, never. Not once. But I think it's also because I share things not in I strongly biased approach. Like I've never been the kind of person, a bit the opposite of Jim whenever he's in periods of a contrarian approach, like he said. I'm pretty much the opposite. Like it's more like I share robotically updates and kind of NBAs saying, okay, that's this level that you should be holding, that's this level that should be breaking. But no, yeah, it's something that I'm crossing fingers. It's nice. It's been that way for 7 years. I hope I'm not going to discover some angry lads. But I think you also avoid this by kind of staying in your lane, in the sense that you won't see me be sharing 10 million market cap shitcoins, because even if I do trade on chain a lot, that's not something that I have some quality analysis to share off, basically.
Yeah, just aping.
And I'm not a perma bear or perma bull. So when you remove these three things, being a low cap cheater and or a perma bear or perma bull, why people would be mad at you? Basically. So yeah. No, never. Well, but again, I hope I'm not jinxing shit. But so far,
a massive loss tomorrow.
The only lad that has ever been mad about me and is a guy that is mad about everyone. It's the Gator guy. I don't know if you see who I'm talking about, but it's this guy from 2018. who I think probably is pretty unstable here in real life. So I'm hoping he's fine. But he's basically in everyone's DM on Twitter and calling you he's calling you a Biden adorator, pedophile kind of things. So that's all he knows.
Okay, sounds like he's got other problems outside.
Kind of. But I'm almost 100% that a few that's going to recognize who I'm talking about when they're listening to the podcast. But wishing him well.
So you know whenever you get just to go for the other side of things, when you're having those periods where you execute your trades and they're not going in your favor, what sort of gets you out of those slumps, as like mentally and also just in execution wise? Do you just keep going until it goes back in your favor and trust the system, or do you have periods where it affects your confidence, and how do you get out of those slumps, etc.?
I don't have like a golden and a set in stone rule that says if you're losing 5 trades or something like this, you should get the fuck out. But I always try to, because I'm trend following, basically, because I'm trying to remain focused on trends. Usually, like for example, if we take the ING example recently, it's been in the same H4 trend from $7 to 17 or something. And it finally started breaking it yesterday or 2 days ago. In this time of moments, I'm going to give this a shot one more time, basically, and see if it reclaims the trends and if it was a deviation. But if it starts going against the system and the very basics of the system, usually I just forget about it. So no, it's rare for me to end up in those situations because it should be fairly obvious if a trend is lost or not. And if it's not obvious, I'm just not going to trade it, basically. But that's something that's true now that wasn't true, that definitely wasn't true a few years ago or even a couple of years ago. I used to revenge trade much more than I do, and I used to stay stuck on a shitcoin or something like this more than I do. And especially, and it's something that I noticed, it's something that I still do, but only on BTC, because I do believe that I'm still somehow emotionally linked to Bitcoin in a way that I almost always want to be trading it more than shitcoins, because shitcoins, I don't care. Like, there is no words where I want to be holding any kind of shitcoin at any moment, basically, outside of when they're trending. Which means that whenever the trend is over, I pretty much have no even exiting and forget about it. While on Bitcoin, I'm still struggling to have this kind of thought process. And it happens sometimes, like, for example, this year, particularly in July and August, it's been a very choppy period for Bitcoin. We had like no clear trend on H4, a few failed reclaimed trends on daily before the final move. And I found myself vastly overtrading that period while the system was just telling me you shouldn't, mate. So yeah, I think this plays also a part a little bit.
What helped you take a step back when you realized you were overtrading?
The money lost.
Yeah, that'll do it. Definitely.
No, I mean, if we are just fully honest, like, just you see the money lost, and basically the money lost in comparison to what the market has achieved in any direction. Like, how do you end up losing that money while pretty much nothing happened significant from any sides, basically?
Yeah.
If that's just, and yeah, that's usually enough for me to be like, okay, fuck it. I might have been, I'm definitely out of my lanes, basically.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we really like to talk about on this show is like actually like stuff outside of crypto, in terms of kind of how you, let's say, for example, do want to take a step back from trading. Like, what does Pierre do when he's not trading crypto?
Well, I have the chance of having a pretty comfy life. I've spent a lot of time this year traveling, but when I'm in France, mostly if it's between April and September, I'm going to be at my place in south of France, pretty much away from everything. And now that it's November and that the winter is kicking, I'm living close to ski stations, so it's gonna be ski season. So plenty of things to take my mind off, basically. But yeah, I do put a lot of importance for me to, I mean, I'm going to say something, and I know it's not entirely true, but I put a lot of importance for me to have some things outside of the market that can make me think about something else rapidly. But in the same time, and especially for the Aven members, if they are listening, that they'll know that even when I'm AFK, I tend to...
You're still thinking.
Yeah, I'm still delivering updates. But But when I do that, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's more me that update things, often just saying nothing has changed, just to convince me to just keep skiing and do nothing, basically. But it's one of the beauty of living in southeast in France, because you have like ski station 1 or 2 hours away and the sea 2 hours away on the other way. So it's pretty comfy.
All right, it's a serious question now.
Aye.
It's good. Gun to head, which would you give up? Shitcoins or cheese and wine?
It's kind of... I'm probably going to have a struggle having that much wine and cheese without shitcoins. But I would give up. If you ask me the question with pretty much everything in life, I'm gonna choose cheese and wine.
I thought so.
True Frenchman.
Because if it's not a chart on your timeline, it's cheese or wine, I found.
Yeah,
so.
well, especially as we start to get into that season, it's gonna be tartiflette and raclette season.
Oh, God, the people that hate on the French are just jealous, honestly.
They hate us because they can be us.
Yeah.
Or because they tried to be us and they got their ass kicked by the burgers. No, but I mean, it's funny. That's what I often say is that, keep crying and come back next summer to spend your hard-earned money. No worries. No worries about that. No, but we are entering the sweet spot where you have like the summer ending, and it's been a long summer. Like up until last week, it was not last week, but up until mid-October, it was still 25 degrees in most places in France. And now we are doing a quick V-shaped reversal into the ski season, so that's lovely to see.
It's the lost H4 trend.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was saying earlier on Twitter. I was like, everything pretty much setting up nicely for me right now. If we do have some ETH BTC local strength into some sort of a local top-ish Bitcoin for the next couple of weeks before I go to Guadeloupe and I come back in December and we can trend again, that will be
lined up
lovely.
nicely.
Yeah.
So at the moment, like how much of the day would you say you are spending looking at the charts or even executing trades?
A bit less since last Thursday. I've put the foot on the brake a little bit more since last Thursday, but for the past 3 weeks, I think a good 10 to 15 hours, but that because it includes a shit ton of time spent in the Haven, discussing with people, working on threads, streaming.
Bit of accountability there.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's been a lot of time spent on the market, but again, probably 10% of that time actually trading, to be honest, because it's been a lot of just adjusting position, trying to compound or just sit on your hands. But in those time, I mostly traded maybe 5 or 6, 10, I would say up to 10 shitcoins mostly. And it's been also mostly Bitcoin led, like try not to fuck things up on Bitcoin during the move. But it was some very busy hours. But cooling off a little bit like for the past 4 to 5 days, basically.
Yeah, because it sounds like what I've kind of gathered is you have quite a lot of discipline now in terms of, like you said, with your bias and all these sort of things. But what you said, have you been trading crypto for 7 years, did you say? Or was that trading in general?
I mean, I've been buying and selling some shitcoins since 2017, but I think we can't call that trading at least since the past 3-4 years.
Yeah, because I'd be kind of, like another thing we really like to discuss here is sort of your, like the journey of the guests. Because obviously, like everyone we bring on is kind of at a point where they've got a lot of experience and a lot of the lessons they preach are based upon sort of things they had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
So, I'd be quite interested to hear about Pierre's like early days, like kind of what your, maybe even just what your intro to crypto was and sort of how your trading style maybe evolved.
I got into crypto in late 2017, mid to late 2017. I was before crypto. I was most of my time was spent on CS and in the CS community. That's how I actually did the transition to have a fully English Twitter. Basically, that's why I never tweeted anything in French, because I was involved in the CS community where everything was in English back in the days, and kind of still today, to be honest. Actually, even more today because now teams are international and you don't have like full French rosters and things like
exactly.
This.
I miss those days, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
They still used to curse me out in French. To be fair.
Yeah,
or Russian.
Yeah, of course, mate. If you are, there is two type of angry lads playing CS. It's the lonely French lad who nobody wants to play with and end up insulting everyone and raging at the first missed B rush basically, and the English and the Russian guy drink at 8 a.m. and shouting at everyone.
Yeah, the English don't have a good rap on CS. I was that toxic. I was that toxic English guy. Like I actually was. I was him.
I mean, yeah, we all kind of we all someday been cant on CS. It's fine.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. So that was kind of your entry.
Yeah, that was the entry because I think I was too young to even consider doing some plays like on the market and things like this. But I remember something like sticking in my head back in the days. I think it was in 2011 or 10 or 12. I don't know. Quite late, quite early. I mean, I think it was this Bordeaux tournament where, or I think maybe it was StarCraft 2. I don't remember. But basically, the last one was going on with 25 Bitcoin, and the rest was like $250. The first one or something like this. And I remember my older brother, sending me this and telling me like a few years later, do you think these lads still have their Bitcoin and things like this in 2016? And that's when both of us, me and I, him and me, started to look the market again. And yeah, then I think nothing original. 2017, 2018, losing it all.
Yes.
And then yeah. Grading your way back up in 2019, losing it all again.
Would you honestly say you lost most of it, or you just use that more as an expression?
Oh no! I think I didn't add much anyway, because I graduated from my engineering school in 2018, so I was still in doing my studies, but the bit I had was pretty much gone. And the thing is that, and that's something people tend to forget, is that in 2017, up to 2020, basically, since up until we had a USDT pairs standardization in the market, the only thing you could do in market was hold Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, hold shitcoins or get Bitcoin, and that's it. So you either were always right. I mean, no, you still had BitMEX to short things and like all of that, but I wasn't even able to. I was buying Bitcoin on eToro back in the day, so I was far away from using BitMEX. But what I'm trying to say is that you were either always correct with your alt plays on the upside, or you were losing money, basically, or losing sats. That's it. So it was, I guess, if you put these conditions with someone at the beginning of the Dunning-Kruger effect who thinks he knows everything because he caught XRP, and you have the perfect recipe for disaster. So no, it's not an expression. I pretty much started from scratch in 2019.
Do you remember what your first big win was?
My first true big win, the one that makes you feel well because you feel like you control things, because like the one it feels like you had a proper reason to enter. It was SEAL. It was a dark shitcoin in UOB. During the UOB days, I think it was second semester 2019 or something like this. And yeah, the thing put like a timestamp against Bitcoin in a couple of weeks or something. And yeah, I think it was the first good trade, the one that I actually paid myself, not given everything back, actually used to pay myself in real euro and euros and actually do something with it in real life. Yeah, I think it was this one, to be honest. I was hesitating with Matic during the Binance IEO season we got in 2019, but I think SEAL was better because Matic still felt like some sort of a gambling and following what people share on Twitter mostly.
What was yours, Josh?
My first big win?
Yeah.
It was actually, I would honestly say it was probably Woo. Like, in 2021, like I dabbled with stuff before. In 2018, I literally would just look at whatever was trending. Like I was buying Stellar, like XLM, XRP. I would literally just look like what's top 10 that's not Bitcoin.
God, that was trash, isn't it?
And then would just buy it. And I like to say, like, honestly, I actually played that cycle really well because I was so retail that I panic sold the top, and like genuinely like one of the best trades I've ever made was in 2017, 2018 because I was just so stupid. I was like,
I remember that rotation because it would go XRP, XLM, and then everything would tank, right, for a period, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could call that a win, but there was so little size that it didn't matter. But yeah, in this season it was, last bull run it was just so much on chain, like spell. Yeah. I was really early in spell, and that's cursed me because I sold really early, and then it went like 100x. Last run was like I had a good circle, I had a good group of people, and for me it's always been like the research on my own half has never been my strong point. So especially because I've been working at Woo for almost 3 years, don't have enough time really to dabble.
I think what you said is very important, and that's something that actually I think I wouldn't be here still today if it wasn't the case, is that to be well surrounded. And like, for example, it's something I've been discussing a lot over the years, but in 2019, do you guys know who Tunes is on Twitter? CryptTunes? Maybe I said it wrong, but
Tunes,
right? Exactly.
Tunes.
Tunes.
Yeah.
In 2019, I think it was first semester of 2018, he made a group chat with a lot of lads on City. In it, you had, and you still have because we still speak on a daily basis, but you had like Chrisma, Loma, Krillin, Mac, me, a few of the lads who are still trading the market and who were all grinding hard during the last bear market particularly. And at this moment in my life, I was spending more time discussing with these lads in a Twitter chat room than all my friends and family combined. And even, to be honest, at some point, even more than with my girlfriend, not gonna lie. And it's funny because some of them, I work with some of them. I actually built the Haven with Krillin and Noma. And it's funny because you can see almost all of them who did their ways separately. Like you have some who became devs for some projects. Some of them build their own projects. But I think it's important because otherwise, again, like Jim said at the beginning of the stream, trading should be boring. And it's boring most of the time. And when it's boring, it's probably when you're going to get wrecked the most. So if you're not, I think it's important to have this social part of trading, unless you're a lone wolf, which is fine. Plenty of lads are like this. But I know that for me, it was very important to know that I have a place where when things went, I could just have lads to talk with who could understand what I was saying, basically. And even just to perfect the system, it helped me so much. It's just insane.
Yeah, we had Runner on, and he was very much more like a lone wolf. And it was so different to my experience because I just don't have the work ethic, or I don't know what it is, but I massively relied on the people I was around.
And
I couldn't imagine doing it alone. Like it'd be impossible.
I'm a lone wolf. I would say I generally leave group chats before I've had a chance to
before the alpha gets shared. Then they see you leave.
I just don't read them. But I don't know what it is. Maybe I just have trust issues or something.
Well, the thing is, for me, I'm not giving any alpha.
I want to be the only person accountable for my ups.
Basically, classic.
I see.
For me, on that part, it's I think it's important on that end. Like, I wouldn't rely on chat groups to make any trades, to be honest. At least not anymore. I used to a little bit more, especially back in the days where things were more in close niche that they are today. Even more, than today, because it's still the case. But even if it's not to discuss some plays, just to have a place to discuss market in general and to be surrounded by other people who are either mentally healed to still be here or early or whatever, I think it helps. But yeah, to be honest, actually, it's fine. It's funny because I think I'm in plenty chat rooms, but through the years, the only one I'm still actively reading and participating every day is that same group chat from 2019.
Nice.
More than
interesting,
any others, to be honest. And I think it kind of is a bit of trust issues, like Jim said, and even more through the years. Like, if there's one thing you learn in crypto and this community, is that you shouldn't blindly trust anyone.
Exactly.
And if it's not a conclusion you reached at this point after a few years in this market, you haven't been hurt enough. And I don't know how, but yeah.
I think that's the issue a lot of people, I'm sure, who are listening to this face, which is you are looking on CT and these other platforms to people who know more than you. So you're like looking for their opinions, and when they have a strong opinion, it's really easy to blindly follow that. But what you're not seeing is they might be adjusting that opinion 5 seconds after they post, like they might be, if they're in an active trade, you don't see that management happening.
It's actually something that was very important for me during this cycle, during the last 2 years. I've had and I think it's something many of people in CT and in crypto in general also faced. I had a massive imposter syndrome, especially during 2020, 22. Plenty of factors, I guess, the rapidity of money made, but also the toxicity of the community on some things and things like this. Or also feeling like, I don't know, these lads seems to be genius at the market. What am I even doing here compared to them? But the truth is that when I went full time, and particularly when 2022 started and openly stopped, and we actually got a year of retraces, that was a big realization for me that most likely every person I considered as good at this thing is shit. And basically, and it struck me the most by the incapacity of some people to just accept that dynamics changed. And I remember telling to myself, how can you not realize the trends are gone? And how can you realize that they flipped and that we are not in the same dynamics? And I don't know if it's because some people through the years inevitably become perma-bulls or perma-bears. It seems like it's one or the other, basically. Yeah. It's either they made generational money and became perma-bulls, or either at some point they got rugged and CZ
lost
is
faith in the market.
Basically, it's one or the other. It's nonsense. It's one or the other always.
It goes back to a point that you just said as well, Josh, with regards to like people changing their mind after 5 seconds.
Yeah,
like that should be applauded, in my opinion. People's ability to flip their bias, but it generally goes the opposite way. People give people shit for changing their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's like such a great skill. So I think people fall into this trap of having the same bias because they don't want the hate from people saying,
called a flip flopper.
But like the best flip flopper I know is CBS. Yeah, he's a goat. He's an insane.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is that we had 2 cases of that this year, and I don't like to shit talk and things like this, so we're just gonna use the meme. But we had the example of Capo.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Never flipping the ace, always moving the goalposts.
Yeah,
and you know that gif where on the football pitch and you see the lads picking the goals and like moving away in the field. It's been that all year. And at the opposite, you have lads like CBS. Or Loma is very good at this too, in my opinion. Just like constant, like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Fuck it. If I was wrong and I value the initial analysis and that the risk reward was the best in that direction at this point, if it's broken, probably mean it's the opposite. And I think you're right, Jim. I think it's something people misinterpret between flip-flop and lack of conviction or whatever, because the thing is that, and that's crypto, that's a crypto thing. In crypto,
people want certainty.
People are so tribal in crypto that they think every trade should be a conviction trade.
Certainty. Yeah,
it's not. It's just literally my system telling me the price is above 2 like imaginary lines. It doesn't have to be I would kill anyone if that's wrong. Like, it almost never happens. Like, I could count my conviction play on my hand over the last 5 years or something, while all the rest was almost purely just trading.
I've had 2. I think I've had 2 in all the years I've been doing this, which is like 5 or 6. I can't really remember. I've had 2 conviction plays. That's it.
Maybe I would say maybe 4 or 5 me, and during the last 2 years probably 2 or 3 max. But it's fine. And also, it's fine if you're the kind of lads who trade conviction plays, and you take only a few ones. And I would understand. But I think in that sense, if you're following people on Twitter, you need to understand what kind of traders they are, if they're actually traders, because you need to understand most aren't anyway. But you need to understand exactly what Jim said. Like, if it's someone that takes trades as trades and that's it, and they are not going to marry their coins, or if you're following someone who's more on the FA side or a narrative side and thinks that there is some bigger conviction than the price and just the charts. I think it's important to understand who's sharing what, basically.
I think people have this false sense of conviction.
Yeah.
I think they force conviction in order to not sell too early. But if that's your plan, that's not a viable trade plan in the first place, you know.
Yeah, that's why I said it was tribal.
It's like now, if people bought early in this rally, they're like creating conviction in their trade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to justify
not risk giving back. Yeah, it's crazy.
Actually, you know, someone who's extremely good at it and publicly it's Donald. Donald is extremely good at just saying, oh, you know what? I'm starting to see some signals of things that makes me more uncomfortable than I was. Even if I said that I was expecting to see 40s last week, in between there was 10 days and there was a news of that this happened. It doesn't have to be true anymore. And I think he's very good at this, and he proved to be not only very good at this, but maybe one of the best in the market at this, in the community at least. I don't know about the market, but in the community.
So. My thought, especially when it comes to high conviction plays, is I don't see the logic or the need or the reason to, you know, let's say you've got conviction currently from 20k in Bitcoin, and you've got high conviction up to 60k. You think we're going 20k to 60k.
Yeah.
Why do you need to hold one trade for the entirety of that rally?
I was talking to Don about this. I was talking to Don about this the other day.
Because
my best period was that 65 down to 20. But I took like 5 separate trades all within that period.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you know, I have the answer.
To reevaluate, sit out some of the chop where you're really stressed at your positions and the fluctuating P&L. And also, you can sometimes capture a higher percentage
on a short, especially.
Exactly.
Compounding.
Yeah.
But you know what? The answer is fairly simple in the case of City. A part of the answer, at least, I know for sure that a part of the answer is that people trade off of their entry and PNL. Some people are refusing to close a trade because they got a 21k entry, for example, and it makes them feel great opening the app and seeing that they are in Giga Green with a Giga Killer entry that they can't dream of anymore. Some people struggle to do that because they rely too much on the PNL card that they're gonna be able to pull out at some point.
I prefer it. You know, if you were long from 20k up to now to, let's say, 35. And I don't think people realize, you know, if you closed at profit now, your sort of margin for drawdown increases massively as well. Like, you know, if I was just entering the market now, my tolerance for drawdown is like this. Whereas if I'd already rode 20 up to 35, I'm like, if I enter here and it goes down to 32, I'm not that bothered because I've already captured fucking, you know, a massive move. So it allows you the freedom to take a bit more risk in the late stages of a trend as well. Yeah, like I bet Donald's got no issue buying tomorrow if he gets a
100%. And that's that's something that I often discuss, because a lot of what I do is writing trade on Shitcoin, which comes with compounding left and right, and you have to do so when you maximize the right. But I also know that I'm often more fine chasing a compounding setup after something did a time 2 if I already paid myself. If I didn't pay myself, at least mentally, I know that I'm struggling more than when I know I have some cashed out anyway. And again, ING was a good example recently. Like, people joined a little bit late on the trade, some people, and they were asking me, how do you manage like the pressure of seeing a compounding go against you for the first few H4 candles before finally defending the trend and going? And the answer is always, because on the initial trade, I don't know, maybe 75 was taken off. If this compounding trade goes well, it's a banger over a banger. But if it fails, it's not like if I don't know if I'm saying it clearly, but at least I feel like if you're actually trading, if you're actually facing the struggles of knowing when to pay yourself, of giving up on some trades, personally, at least I know that I'm much better in terms of execution and compounding when I already have some off. And that's actually something I said like a few minutes before the podcast on ETH, because before the podcast on ETH, I got a target it on a Ethereum long, and I was like, it's only a retest of like Friday highs, but I'm so happy to take this off now, because if it retraces now, if it comes back for a retest of the entry, blah blah blah, I'm just gonna feel much comfier, like just either holding or exiting on many ways, just because mentally I know I have a target hit, or just because the size is smaller and I can just absorb more drawdown. But yeah, I think it's something people struggled with up until
I think
they
I know
actually
why
start
they
trading
struggle
for
with
real.
it. Because I think I've got a unique perspective here, because I'm not a good trader. And I think what it is it's for most of these guys, it's when they close that position, they have to reset. They're back at trying to actually get a profitable trade again. So when you finally have gotten when you finally have gotten a good entry and that trade's riding, you don't want to start from scratch again. You've got your nice long and you're finally printing. It's like, man, if I close this, I have to deal with closing 15 profit trades again in negative.
I think that's one of the issues with CT especially, is we've blurred the lines and the definition of what a trader actually is.
Yeah, 100%.
Like there's a big change in, that's, people are describing gambling as trading because it sounds more sophisticated. And it justifies the fact that they're making really shit decisions.
Yeah, I think it's that. I mean, if I was going to try and spin this, because something really like useful for the people listening, is like, what would you guys, because, we've had all this talk about not listening too closely, of copying people and, like all these kind of observations. What would you think would be the tool to help people improve?
Well,
and maybe not doing these things.
The more trades you take, the more trades you close, the more data you have on those trades, the more confident you can be going forward to trade more. Like the problem is, people might take 3 trades a year. You can't learn anything on 3 trades. You might win 2, lose 1, and you think you're a god-tier trader trading at 70% win rate. But your next 3 might all be losers in the, just waiting to happen. So,
if you make 3 trades and you make it, fair play. Like, fair play to you.
But, like, it's like what South always used to say, keep clicking. The more you click, the more you learn. And the more, it's all about confidence. This is why, I think it's easiest to compound once you've closed a trade, because not only is it positive reinforcement that you've made money, it adds to your confidence levels, and it just gives you a bit more freedom to
do a round trip as easily and stuff.
Worse trades.
I think,
and I generally get on a heaters. Like sometimes, I'm a bit of a streaky trader, and I just will generally get on a heater, and it's like that old meme of that guy where he's like, bet more, bet more,
bet more.
Yeah, and it is like that when you really start taking profit. It's amazing what it does to your confidence and stuff. So.
It's even better because, and especially in crypto where you're gonna have plenty of narratives or trends going on in parallel, paying yourself on already some nice trades is the execution from then on the same asset, or even just freeze some risk to reallocate somewhere else, for example, even if it doesn't have to be always risky. But I think what Jim said is true, and I also think you're right on the 3 trades per day, per week, per year. It would be like watching a football tournament, seeing 3 penalty kicks scored, and draw the conclusion that every penalty kick is goal.
Yeah,
it's just not enough data. But yeah, I personally think it's pretty much what Jim said, because that's how I actually did it. You're gonna have at some point. I think it's fine to do some paper analysis and paper trade if you want, but the thing is that you will never take away the mental and psychology part of trading if you're not just putting your hands in the market. Like if you have to get dirty, but you don't have to get dirty and lose it all. You can reduce size. Like personally, what I did in 2022 was reduce size drastically, knowing that the conditions were not AVAX going to 3 digits anymore. Just journal everything, because the more you journal things, the more you manage to stay disciplined in it, the more data you have to work with, the more you can recognize when things are eating up. I think again last week when Bitcoin went to 38K and we got that EBTC local bottom, I tweeted that for the first time in this entire rally, I felt euphoric, and that it was a signal for me to take some off and just take a step back. That's only possible that's not only possible that way, but I think it's easier to notice it that way when you journal everything, because you're like, okay, last 3 times or last 5 times I felt that way and I noted similar things in my journal. It was near local tops, or at the very least, even if it was not near local tops, I started doing some nonsense, either rotating too heavily from Bitcoin to ETH instead of just treating it like a new trade, like taking all the BTC exposure I had and flip it in ETH. That's something I used to do, for example, when we had similar conditions than now, instead of just saying, oh, something changed, it's a new trade. So yeah, just journal everything. It's not easy. I think it's the easiest advice you can give to someone, journaling, but I'm almost certain, at least in CT, a good 95% of people are not journaling anything they do, at the very least. And I know it's a struggle because I do it every day, and it's so painful most of the time because it makes you confront how idiot you are sometimes, or most of the time at least.
Yeah, I think that's the reality.
Crucial,
yeah.
But it's crucial. It's
the only part. It's the only part that matters, and you got to be. I think you got to have slightly a screw loose anyway. Like as far as like you only focusing on the shit parts of your like persona.
Yeah.
But you look at all the best investors of all time. They only care about their losses. They don't care about their wins too much.
I mean, speaking about wins, especially because we know we've gone past the hour here, I think it would be great to ask Pierre kind of a question we ask all our guests to round things off. Like, what is your kind of definition of success? Like, what are you working towards? Maybe when will you take your foot off the gas?
I mean, you mean in general, like in trading, or
just in as a life question?
Yeah.
I think I'm winning as long as again, I don't think it's a very original answer, but I think I'm winning whenever I'm still the one in charge of deciding what I do and when and how. I think it's one of the best things of doing this kind of things as an activity is that if you understand that you should not be always trading, it gives you a lot of time to do other things, like we discussed earlier, skiing and things like this. So yeah, I guess very unoriginal answer, but as long as you're master of your time, I think I'm winning. But there is also a double meaning if that's it's fine to be a trader because you have more time. But if you spend this time just trading and every day on the market for 15 hours, like you should be doing in periods like recently, but not all year, you're not actually the master of your time. You're the slave of the market. And I think it's something to work with. Like being a trader gave me the opportunity not to have a boss anymore and work and decide of my time as much as I want. Now I'm working on adjusting the system and my way of trading to be truly free on my time and not always slave to the market, basically.
Yeah, because I was going to say, how close would you say you are to that goal?
I'm halfway through.
Halfway?
I don't have a boss
another
anymore.
7 years?
I don't have a boss anymore, so that's half of the job done. But now I need to work on being able to have proper breaks on the market, like being truly AFK, truly spending some time away from Discord, things like this. But it's getting better. It's getting much better.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I think we can wrap it up there. That was a really, really interesting episode. So thank you so much, Pierre, for coming on.
With pleasure, guys.
And thank you as well to Jim, as always. But yeah, I think good luck with your mission, and hopefully in a couple of years' time we won't see you on CT for a whole year. Ideally,
yeah. We'll just see cheese and wine pictures.
Yeah, just cheese and wine posting.
Yeah, well, for the next few weeks, probably going to be more rum pictures from Guadeloupe. But as soon as I'm back,
looking forward to that.
It's gonna be plenty of cheese and skiing, hopefully, because last season wasn't the greatest ski season we've had. There's not a lot of snow, but yeah, fingers crossed.
Love it.
Sweet.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks again, sir, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and take care.